Welcome to Prep Boys Podcast. I am your humble host, Mr. BS himself. This, of course, is No BS. I am your CFO here at Prep Boys LLC, coming to you live from usually sunny Sunrise, Florida, although it's been raining here the last couple of days. With me, as always, is our resident Amazon expert, driving force behind our operations, majority owner, and our GM here at Prep Boys. Warm welcome for OJ the Juice Man. Welcome once again,
Thank you.
bro.
Appreciate it. That was quite an intro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, man. Gotta do it big for the big guy, you know.
Appreciate
Um,
that.
um, so today we are missing one third of the team. I know you were under the weather last week, and now Jason is a bit under the weather. He's in CT, so wishing him health and wealth with his family. I know he said his the wife is also feeling a little sick. I know my other half is sick, so things are going around as we're in winter full swing here.
Yeah, rest assured though, your products are being taken care of. We've got our PPE, we've got our masks on, so we're not spreading the germs.
There you go. So last pod, Jason and I talked about blending the family life with business. We went over credit cards and managing those and staying cash flow positive. Of course, we're getting to the end of the year, so we touched on some realistic goal setting as we get to the 2024 that's upcoming. Clearly, I'm here in the Santa hat. We're in the Christmas spirit. I know you're doing the same with the shirt.
Yeah. I got my ugly Christmas sweater. Hopefully, I got to get back on a cruise ASAP. Had a great time.
Hey, take me with me, man. So for this episode, we're on episode 6, man. We're really moving along. I know I say that every episode, it feels like, but yeah, episode 6, and this one is titled "Resale Storefront Growth: Expanding Beyond Amazon and Mastering Your Storefront Stalking." I know we touched on storefront stalking in a previous pod, but a lot of information there. So wanted to give it a little bit more love. Before we get into that, though, a lot of different marketplaces and storefronts popping up all over there. You got TikTok, you got Walmart, and so I figured we'd at least talk some of those topics up front. Have you looked into opening a Walmart marketplace? Let's start there.
Yeah, so for me personally, Jess, I mean, I kind of got my roots and feet in the ground when it comes to resale, pretty much in eBay. From there, I went ahead and started utilizing, Facebook Marketplace. And then eventually I connected with Saul and Mercari, who's a huge Funko seller, with Saul in the buy box, who's a huge Funko seller, and then recommended Mercari, which I think to date on I made, a solid 5 figures in just in
Sheesh.
returns from Amazon customers, or items that suddenly I couldn't sell and I was gated in,
Yep.
and ended up selling on Mercari. As far as Walmart goes, just kind of being a Walmart customer and someone who buys from Walmart very often, I know that their returns and their policy is almost even a little bit more lenient than Amazon. So that's always, led me to shy away from selling on that platform. I do know of several sellers who have had success on the platform, but it does carry that downside as well. So it's something that I never really ventured into, considering how well I'm doing on Amazon as it is.
Yep.
As far as TikTok, and me, I've never been a big social media guy, so for TikTok, I haven't really delved into products, but I know that there are some products that do well, but you have to kind of have that going viral feel or an influencer who backs it. And as you know, that's not really my style. I tend to kind of be laid back and base things on facts and just my relationships that we've built. But again, I do know that there's money to be made on both of those platforms as well. So yeah, if there's anyone watching right now and you've had success, or learning experiences that you want to share, feel free to reach out to us, and potentially we can link up for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have anyone who has experience in those platforms join the pod. And I definitely spend my fair share on social media, and it seems like TikTok has turned into a bit of just a general marketplace. There's a lot less original content that's sort of floating around, and there's a lot of folks really trying to sell you on things these days. But But to your point, if you have a following, then getting on live and being able to sell is something that's a lot easier. Also, you're going to have a completely younger audience on TikTok. So what you're selling, needs to cater to that audience.
Yeah,
A
that's
few
what I was
things.
gonna ask. So when you're cruising on TikTok, I know mainly you use it for, for business, for Amazon and anything related to that. Do you come across items that you feel like may be of interest to you, or are they like just are they not on target?
They're on target. I mean, that's one
Mm,
thing TikTok does well is their algorithm works, man. I go on there for a lot of things, chat GBT, trying to teach myself things, also for laughs. We just moved into a new apartment, girl and I, and we're on the fourth story. And so, now bringing in groceries has become a bit of a problem, especially when she's trying to do it by herself. And, she's 5 months pregnant. So
yeah.
we were talking about getting like a little rolling cart that she
Mhm.
can, it folds in the car. And lo and behold, the very next day, I'm on TikTok and somebody on the marketplace is there showing off the rolling cart. So the algorithm works, man. It definitely works.
Okay.
I still think you're probably best feeding into the younger audience, sort of getting those. I know I was one of those kids where, you see the latest toy and then you run into your parents bothering them over and over and over. And finally they cave and get it for you. So those simple type of widget toys, I think those are your best bet. Or, like you said earlier, if you're an influencer and you
Mhm.
have something that, whether it's a brand, a shirt brand, hat brand, some merch, something like that, I think you can definitely make a killing doing something like that.
Yeah, well, now you piqued my interest. I might pay a little bit more close attention to the marketplace and see what's going on for sure.
Makes sense. And then
Yeah.
I know I brought Walmart up first because to me, I think that's a lot closer to what Amazon currently is.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bunch of buzz on Twitter with Amazon sellers who are now doing both.
Mhm.
I think one of the pulls is that it's a bit more untapped, and so you have less competition trying to get into it. The mechanics of the site and the interface, and to your point, the return policies and all that. So
Yeah.
while it's a bit untapped in terms of sellers that are out there, I think you're going to be a bit of a guinea pig in that space as well.
Yeah, with that being said, Walmart is now the second largest marketplace aside from Amazon. So, us, we're into to growing revenue, we're into making money. So, I wouldn't count it out for sure. So yeah, I'm happy to do some further research on it and see if it's a potential play for us because it is poised for growth, no question. And there are people, just like there are people loyal to Amazon, loyal to Target, there are people who just shop at Walmart. So I
True.
think it's definitely an opportunity.
True. And now, of course, we got the prep center in the background. Any thoughts, or have you heard anyone reach out and say, would you guys prep for Walmart as well? Or
Man, that's a good question, and I wish Jay was here for this because I know he typically does our onboarding. But I think to date and just kind of high level, I don't think anyone has mentioned Walmart. I know that we've had a few eBay asks,
Mhm.
which of course we did help out with that on a case by case basis. But I don't think we've had any Walmart sellers approach us specifically for fulfilling Walmart items. But I mean, I'd imagine if they're just sending labels, it's probably similar to Amazon. But again, I'm not
Yep.
an expert in that
Yeah.
field.
Same. We'll have to talk to Jay about it. But yeah, I'd imagine the prepping is at least similar to that point. I don't actually know their guidelines currently.
Right.
Um, but yeah, new space. Like I said, a lot of folks moving in many directions now. Along those lines, we always mention that your staff on the buy box, and they had mentioned a new tool that Amazon was rolling out, Veeqo or Veek.
Oh
I
yeah.
pronounce it, but yeah, essentially a way of sort of like centralizing your inventory management if you have multiple storefronts that you're dealing with. I know you said you're using at least a few now. You're still doing eBay at times and Akari.
Yep.
Is that something that you've at least thought about or inquired about, or are you comfortable managing on your own currently?
Yeah, so I think over this past week in particular, I think it's Veeqo has kind of picked up a little bit of steam, especially in the social media world. Just kind of doing some brief searches and connecting with some folks in Discord. It does look like it's a good alternative to using Amazon's buy shipping, where you're able to get similar costs and also I believe it was like a 5% cash back or discount.
That's
So
clutch.
yeah, so there may be some benefits to it. Obviously, 5%, anything to help your ROI and return is huge, and 5% is nothing to sneeze at. I know that, and again, just speaking on the buy box, I know that some of the group owners there are looking to bring on up a call with one of the Veeqo folks here in the near future. So definitely looking forward to that, and of course, we'll impart that knowledge to our audience as well. But yeah, it's definitely something I've got to do a little bit more research on. This month, as you know, or it's been a madhouse at the prep center.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're at a little over 1,000 units just this week alone, that we shipped and prepped. And I know our UPS guy was there for about an hour doing pickups today. So we got we got to get this guy a Christmas gift.
Yeah, he saw me with my Santa hat and just laughed and shook his head.
Yeah, yeah, we got to get him a gift, man. I know he's making money than all of us, but we got to
Yeah,
get him a gift.
probably, yeah. Probably. In terms of all the different storefronts that are, now out there. And if you are using something like Veeqo, clearly the kickback with the 5%, that's something Jay and I talked last pod with the rewards, always take advantage of those type of opportunities. But also if you're looking to get into wholesale, having multiple storefronts and being able to manage them simultaneously, number one, you're looking better to wholesalers, because now, at times there can be like this stigma of, oh, he's just an Amazon seller,
Yeah,
which it is what it is. But if you have multiple storefronts and you're able to now really show that, okay, this isn't just an Amazon thing, you're moving product across multiple avenues, and then the Veeqo portion is just a way for you to manage it a bit more. I think
yeah,
that I
yeah.
found that interesting.
Yeah, no question. I've been to a few trade shows, and it's kind of it's interesting, and it's maybe a little bit intimidating if you haven't been in a space long, connecting with these brand owners or these larger distributors. And it's like, man, I just have an Amazon store. How am I going to approach this guy without seeming disingenuine? So
Yep.
you try to touch the truth, or go around the fact that you're solely selling on Amazon,
Yep.
and eventually they'll call your bluff. So just to your point, I think if you are a serious reseller, having a website that is a professionally built website with products that are available for purchase definitely goes a long way. And of course, if you're speaking to a tools or distributor, you don't want to direct them to your site where you're selling, cookie tins. They want to make sure that you're in that space, and that that way they'll take you seriously.
Yep.
But yeah, to your earlier point on inventory management and being across multiple marketplaces, yes, of course, I think it'll pay dividends. You just kind of inventory management at that point really becomes imperative. And I know everyone watching this could speak to the fact that you had something cross-listed on multiple platforms, on eBay and Mercari, for example. You sell it on eBay last month. Next thing you know, you see it sell on Amazon, and you're like, man, did I sell that Squishmallow? I can't. Where is it? I don't know where it is. Um, and I know, trust me, it's happened to me plenty of times. Where then I have to reach out to the marketplace and Discord, and ask if anyone has this particular item that I can buy from them. So yeah, inventory management when especially when you're selling across multiple platforms is going to be key. And it's already tough if you're only on one or two platforms, if you're dealing with large quantities. So just something to keep in mind, having a good bookkeeping system, having a good, software to kind of make sure that your inventory counts are accurate, would be huge if you're doing that.
Big facts. Big facts. Okay, I think this is a good time to transition us away from sort of the new and exciting opportunities that are out there in the resale world, and get to something that has been happening now for probably a couple of years or so. I know you touched on it previously. We're talking storefront stalking. Um,
Yeah.
just to baseline us again, that involves just closely analyzing competitors' storefronts and trying to get insight as to how they're operating their business, looking at things like listings and pricing, customer reviews, and trying to carry that over into what you're doing. Um, so really wanted to get into some more of the details. I guess both for sellers that are looking to do some storefront stalking on their own, And
Yep.
then also, ways that they could, larger sellers could potentially uh, keep others from doing so. Uh,
Yeah.
so
So
first question I'll ask here is, it, did you have any specific sort of metrics or data points that you would focus on when you're analyzing a competitor like that?
yeah, so transparently, I didn't really get big into storefront stalking until I guess it was about the middle of last year. I've always, I didn't want to kind of quote unquote ride on someone's coattails. I wanted to find my own products, and things of that nature, and just kind of
Yeah,
pave my own way.
respectable.
Yeah, and but the fact of the matter is, man, you could still do that and kind of look at other people's or other stores' inventory, look at what they're selling, especially if you kind of deem them to be a solid seller or someone who's selling profitable items. So what I normally look at, when I'm sourcing a particular store, if I'm selling Funkos or toys or different collectibles, and I always see that one store selling the same items that I'm selling, that's someone who I'd like to look at because I know that I'm buying things to sell for a profit. And if he or she has that store on that listing, most likely they're selling things for a profit as well.
Yep.
So that's someone who I want to look at. So essentially, you kind of look at that store, you open up the store, and you can. And before we jump into how to do it, you can do it multiple ways. Whether it's manual or there's multiple software and tools available out there for you to do it, which of course automation makes everything easier. Um, but certainly you can manually go ahead and do it. But what I'd like to look at is number one is reviews. So if a seller only has maybe less than 40, 50 reviews, it's probably not someone who I want to storefront stalk, mainly because the fact that 40, 50 reviews, they may have only been selling on Amazon for let's say a year or two, which isn't bad. There's nothing against the new guy.
Hmm.
But essentially, I want someone with a little bit more, let's say, skin in the game, or someone who's been selling a little bit longer, because I can't imagine someone who has two, 300 positive reviews operating on Amazon for 4 or 5 years at a loss.
Yep. Yep.
So that's one of the things that I kind of look at, um, at first. Another thing I'll look at is, I'll look at some of their products, and then I'll look at essentially, taking that particular product and then plugging it in on Google or another browser to see the prices of that product versus the price that they're selling for. And if it's, if I feel like the customer, if I feel like that store is buying things at $20 and selling things on Amazon for $25, obviously they're losing money, or not really not making high margins. So that's another thing I want to look at. I want to look at, to determine if they're actually selling things close to the buy box or if they pretty much just made bad buys. Of course, this is a lot easier to demonstrate. If I had a if I was sharing my screen right now, but at the end of the day, reviews and then accuracy when it comes to forecasting and pricing are probably the two biggest. And then I would say number three would be inventory. And so I know I did speak on software and tools that you could use, and one of them is Seller Amp, which is, I mean, it's a great tool all around. And you're able to go ahead and use Seller Amp to basically see stock levels of a particular seller's products. And I know that you mentioned earlier, what's one way that sellers can kind of combat this? If someone goes 100 deep on a product, you can feel pretty confident that it's a good buy or they thought it was a good buy.
Hmm.
But as a seller, you can go ahead and adjust your quantity limit to, let's say, two or three on a particular item, and that's all that'll show up in Seller Amp. So even though you have 100, if you put your maximum at two or three, that's all, someone like me or you, that's all we could see. So that's a way to kind of deter other people from looking at your listings and things like that. But any good seller who's doing enough research and has been doing this long enough can kind of see past that.
Okay, so let me ask you, because you played sort of devil's advocate with yourself there. So, if you're going to storefront stock, a larger store that you're interested in, how do you make those decisions knowing that they could be false advertising those quantities? Do you keep that in mind, or how do you sort of navigate around that?
Yeah, so I normally look at it from what I would do. So me particularly, if you go to my storefront, you'll see everything is a max order quantity of three. So if I go to another seller's storefront and then I see three, 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 100, three, 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 I know that they simply probably just made a mistake and forgot to change that 100 quantity to three.
Gotcha.
Um, but again, it just comes down to kind of knowing the product. So from there, I'll look at that. If there's a question on how much inventory they do have, which from my point of view, it's not a huge deal because the other metrics to take into consideration are sharing of the buy box, which is key. So I don't care if they have 100. If the buy box is being shared across multiple sellers, it's not a real huge deal to
Yep.
me. But that's when it comes down to you really knowing the data and then doing your research. So you can simply take that item, like I mentioned, plug it back into Google, see how many times it's selling in Keepa or SellerAmp, and then make your determination on what you want to buy from there. But yeah, that's just the way for sellers to be able to shield their actual inventory levels.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, is there any way that you can sort of identify some of their like seasonal items or niche items by doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, once you pull up that store ID, if you're using a software in particular, if you once you pull up that store ID, you're literally going to get all of the items in their catalog. So if someone says, Power Tools Plus, and they're selling all, they're probably selling all tools. If someone is toys and collectibles store, they're most likely selling, toys, Legos, figures, things like that. And so, like I mentioned, when you're on listings, that you want to buy or you want to storefront stock people who are kind of in your niche or in your lane. So if you're selling on a Barbie listing, most likely you're not going to have a power tool seller on that listing. So that way you're able to go ahead and go to click other sellers and then view some other sellers in that particular product who most likely has other products similar to that one. So that's kind of how I do it.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about in terms of the way that they're fulfilling their items, whether it be sort of FBA, FBM?
Yep, that's another good question. And on a seller in particular, you can go ahead and it tells you whether the person or the store is fulfilling it by merchant or by FBA. And of course, right now it's a great time for a seller or for storefront stalking in general, because most likely these larger sellers that you're stalking are pretty much buying items now and fulfilling them by merchant for Christmas. So most likely, if you're actually like monitoring the store using a software, you're able to see that new product up. You'll get alerted, and then you can go ahead and source that product from Target, Walmart, perhaps Kohl's, wherever else, and it's most likely in stock near you, and you can know that they're selling it for a profit, so you can too. So right now is
Okay.
typically the best time to storefront stock. That's kind of a good way to get an idea of seasonal items or what's hot at the time. But yes, you can go ahead and sort by FBM versus FBA as well.
Okay. Well, how they give to the people right there. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah.
All right. So, can you find any insights to their supply chain? Because I know you mentioned pricing, right? And you're going to look at Google to try to figure out what the baseline price is and is it profitable? But, what if this seller is just, they have an in somewhere and they got some type of fantastic deal to make it profitable for them? Is there any way of identifying that? Getting clues?
I would say that there's really no way to find their actual source, which man, life would be a lot more if you were. Because sometimes, you could have a killer wholesale deal or a killer brand direct contract, and
Yep.
then the next, someone's storefront stalking can go ahead and see that source. I just imagine mayhem playing out. But no, so aside from going back and simply doing a reverse search on that item, whether it be through Google or another browser, or even using the picture and utilizing something like Google Lens if you don't have the actual product name, I think you could kind of do it that way. But you essentially just have to dig deep into Google and see what you find. So you can type in the name of that item and then type in distributor or supplier near me, and see what you can drum up. But there's no real way to narrow down or hone in on the actual source where these people are buying their products.
Fair enough.
Uh,
That'd be almost too easy. So.
Yeah, that'd be pretty wild. But hey, man, there's people making new software every day. So in the near future, I wouldn't put it past somebody to come up with it.
Fair, fair. Okay, so any limitations on using this as a strategy sort of long term? I know you said you started doing it 6 months ago or so. Do you see it as something that's going to be in your repertoire for foreseeable future?
Yeah, I started using it about the middle of 2022, so a little over a year and a half. Yeah, I mean, I always think to incorporate it. Not much work. You're able to really see what's really selling, or what some of these quote unquote power sellers are selling. Back to the old eBay days. But yeah, it's something I definitely would continue. I know that if you're using a software in particular to do this, you're kind of limited to they cap you at a certain amount of stores or a certain amount of ASINs that you can actually monitor. So you got to just keep that in mind. But if you're
Okay.
doing it manually or using a virtual assistant, this is a great job for a virtual assistant. Then of course there's no cap. You just have to 9 times out of 10 you'll get beat by someone who has this automated because they're getting the alert before you have a chance to even check out the storefront manually. So
Yeah.
uh, yes, you can do it manually. You can do it automated as well. And I think it is long term if you want to incorporate it into your business for sure.
And any softwares out there that you're using to this type of automation? Share with the people.
So yeah, I mean, my personal bias, I would say Storefront Stalker Pro, which the buy box go ahead utilizes, and it's I was a part of the beta, and it's fantastic. The filtering capabilities, they're top notch and a little bit different and above some of the others that I've seen. That Storefront Stalker Pro, maybe we can put a link in our video
Sure.
with our socials in there later on. But yeah, it'll be a link somewhere up there. I don't know where it'll be. So something like Storefront Stalker Pro, or even just kind of getting your feet wet. And I'm sure a lot of you guys watching have Seller Amp, so you can go ahead and kind of use that and see if you can get a basis for storefront stalking, and then eventually invest the money to making it more of an automated part of your business.
Okay, okay. Appreciate the free game for the
Yeah.
people. And I know you touched on this sort of in the beginning. You said you wanted to do the work yourself. So I got to get into sort of the ethics behind it. Where do sellers draw that line to make sure they're not crossing any boundaries and their ethical practices in their storefront stalking?
Man, I mean, I know a lot of Amazon sellers. We could eventually be a little bit cutthroat. I mean, there's no question about it.
Cutthroat game.
It's a cutthroat game for sure. There's no rule out there, or even an unwritten rule that says, "Hey, you can only stock, or stock 10 of my products and buy those and put them in your inventory. If you want, you can go stock the guy's entire store and buy the same exact items if you're able to." Like I said, for me, I kind of like to carve my own lane, find products that maybe not a lot of sellers are on, and maybe just incorporate a little bit of this and a little bit of that into my business. But everyone's a little bit different. And if you're stocking multiple sellers, obviously you're going to come up with a slew of different products from those different sellers. So and I don't think anyone's going to say, "Hey, man, you've been storefront stocking my store, and now you're selling all my products." So it's kind of like, there's really no rule around what you can or can't do when it comes to that, or anything, whether it's OA, RA. The only real, I guess, cause for pause would be if someone has a private label brand, and you're trying to resell that private label brand, which of course can get you into some hot water.
Yeah,
But
perfect.
yeah, outside of private label, man, I think you're pretty safe.
Okay.
But that's looking at the data and making sure that this product had more than 2 to 3 sellers on it for the life of the listing. Of course, if it just has one seller, most likely it's a private label brand who's going to go ahead and file an IP complaint against you if you go ahead and try to sell that item, which of course is bad for business.
Good point. Yeah, I guess I'd like to sort of relate it to any other sort of game there is, the tax game. You got to pay your taxes, but there's nothing against avoiding taxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Take advantage of some of the loopholes you can. That's business ultimately.
yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I'm with you there.
Okay. So we're getting close to wrapping up here. I know you mentioned some ways that store owners could protect themselves from storefront stalkers. I just wanted to give you another chance to run through any other items you may have on your mind in relation to that.
I mean, I think other than adjusting your inventory counts, to sort of mask how many you actually have. Other than that, there's really nothing you can do as a seller to kind of protect yourself, because like I mentioned, I can go into your store right now and see the list of products that you have, and try to find them cheaper than you bought them. There's nobody or nothing stopping me to do so.
Yep.
So yeah, there, and of course, any of the viewers, if you have any other ideas, we'd love to hear them. From my knowledge, I think the only way to do it is to go ahead and, as I mentioned, just kind of limit it, your available quantity to purchase, in a particular order. But that's about it.
Well,
Yeah.
that'll wrap up the episode. We always do 30 minutes or so. A lot of fantastic information there. I know we covered a lot. Happy holidays to all the people out there. We really appreciate you tuning in, whether it's just to the clips that we post or the full podcast. We love to have you. We love to try our best to add value to this space. As always, please like, follow, subscribe, post this on our YouTube. Of course, you can find us at Prep Boys LLC on YouTube, on all of your socials. That's X or Twitter at Prep Boys _ Prep, and IG and TikTok at Prep Boys _ Prep Center. Of course, we do have Discord, Prep Boys FL, always Prep Boys with a Z.
I know this month we've actually had a lot of folks reaching out to us, just kind of evaluating their prep centers for next year. So love to get on your roadmap. Our partner Jason, again, we wish him swift recovery. He'll be happy to go ahead and connect with you about our onboarding process, our solutions, how personable we are, and how serious we take customer service. So yeah, head over to theprepboyswithaz.com, fill out the quick contact form. I think it'll take you less than 10 seconds to do that. Yeah, we're happy to connect with you. Yeah, happy holidays, as Jesse mentioned. We appreciate the platform, and any comments related to storefront stalking or your experience, feel free to share that. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. As always, we are 100% tax free. So that is a permanent discount code for our customers. We are always tax free. If you're looking for some savings, if you're looking for a prep center, give us a ring. Leave the prep to the boys. We're out.